Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
So this past week, this summer in June, my mother made her transition to the other side of the veil, and was there when she passed on, went back for her memorial. But it was really this past week was the first time I really felt the grief. Like it just hit me, and hit me hard, and went deep. I know you know. And she had dementia for so long, and I think this is true for some other people with dementia. It comes gradually, so you see the shifts in them before they see it in themselves. So she had it long before we actually had to put her in the memory care. So it was so you get used to it. You get used to it, or I shouldn't say you, I got used to, this is like my new mom, and working with her and taking care of her. And then COVID hit, and then we're doing our Zoom calls. So we're seeing her every week in this place. So it doesn't feel like I'm in relationship with the mom that I was in relationship for the rest of my life. And so I think it's taken me a long time to really get into how I truly feel. And I haven't been trying, it just hit me this past week. All the memories. She was my best friend. When she left my dad, they did it in love and respect. But it was when my sophomore year in college, and we were both two women trying to find our voices. We are three brothers, my dad, we grew up in a very masculine world, and so we became best friends on this journey of who are we, and we're exploring. She's in Cleveland, I'm all over the place. And then I didn't travel a lot. When I was on vacation, I'd go back to her house for like 3 weeks. She always made her home so warm and loving, and we talked nonstop. So I'd just go for 3 weeks and hang out with my mom. And so this was our relationship for decades, and then the dementia hit. So this past week, suddenly all the time of the dementia just dissolved, and all that stayed were these incredible memories. And the grief, it just knocked me out. Just the depth of just a topic. And the depth of the sadness. And it was the first time I really understood ache, because as I cried and cried it wasn't just my heart that ached. I know you all know this, my whole body just ached. It physically ached in pain. And I know I'm looking around like everybody here knows this feeling, because we've all lost someone very precious to our life. But the other side of that was, I was so grateful to feel the ache. Up until now, I hadn't really grieved, and it made me sad. I'm like, my mom, why am I not grieving my mom? It was like, it felt weird. So sadness is so intense, but it's also the greatest gift, that we've loved someone and been in a relationship with someone that we love that deeply, that knows us so well and we know them so well. And what a gift in our life. And I was simultaneously happy to feel the sadness, even though it hurt, like physically. And what they say, I think I might have mentioned this before, that in the brain they have found that there's two different parts in our brain. So there's a part that gets lit up when we're happy, and there's a part of our brain that gets lit up when we're sad, but they're two different parts of our brain, which is why we can feel both emotions simultaneously. That's how you get the word bittersweet, because you can actually experience the sadness and the happiness all at once. And this is what paradox is, where two seeming opposite truths are both true. And the more we open up to the paradoxes of life, the richer, the fuller, the more joyful our life becomes, because we're feeling the whole picture of it. We're not just experiencing, as we heard in the reading today, we're not only experiencing one half, we're feeling the whole thing. We don't have to push one thing aside. We're embracing all of it. And for most of you who've heard me speak before, my favorite Shunryu Suzuki quote, actually it's one of my favorite quotes of all time, which is Shunryu Suzuki, who said, if it's not paradoxical, it's not true. And what he means by that, then you're only focusing on one side of it. And as he says, like, you have the flip side of the coin. You know, one side is true, and you know the other side is true too, but you can tend to only look at one side at a time. I mean, you could look at like this, but you can't really see either face. So you know that when you're looking at this, like when I'm crying, I know on the other side of that is this incredibly joyful, loving relationship. And then I look at the loving side, that doesn't mean I don't feel the sadness or the grief, or even the front. We had, any relationship, there's all aspects of it, but the grief is pretty predominant right now. So in life, the more we are willing to, that's what they actually are saying about evolution, that the more we're willing to able to hold these pairs of opposites in our life, the more alive we become. Daniel Siegel, who's now he's a professor at UCLA, he's done all sorts of things, but that's where he is now. I just saw him on a video clip, and he was talking to the Buddhist Joanna Macy, and she said, so many people are coming to her now more than ever with burnout. People are just so burned out. And she said, how would you advise them? And he said, well, as a Buddhist, or as a person, we all have this mindfulness awareness. So have them practice the mindfulness awareness. So the mindfulness awareness, I think most of you know, is where we have this witness, this I am presence that's always witnessing us. So right now, if I just said, look at yourself, like just look at yourself physically, look at how you're sitting, look at where are your eyes right now, where's your eyes looking, what are your ears listening to, what is your body and your legs, and and then you might even get even to a little bit how you feel inside of your body. You can just look at yourself right now and do that. And you can do that at any time of the time. You could have done this 10 years ago, 20 years in the future. It doesn't matter, because the same thing that's looking at you now has always been looking at you. It is unchanging. That's called the witness, the I am presence. And it's always here. That's when we say God is ever present, that's the I am. It's always here. It doesn't come, it doesn't go, it doesn't grow, it doesn't become more or less. It is always fully, wholly, and completely being itself, untouched by the human experiences, but can witness the human experience through and as you. So you become this conscious awareness of everything that's happening as you choose to connect with the I am of your being. So get in touch with so his answer was get in touch with this awareness, this mindfulness. It's also called vipassana, witnessing. Be in touch with that. That's the meditation practice. You don't have to only do it in meditation. You can do it throughout your day, sitting at a stoplight. Oh, I'm going to be aware of me sitting at the stoplight. I'm aware of the thoughts that I have while I sit at the stopping light. Like, this can become a way of being. I said, now, a lot of times in mindfulness training, they do use it a lot in health, and they'll say, well, just witness the pain in your body and it'll start to dissolve. That's true, and he also says, but we still have these problems. The things that people are feeling burnt out, climate change, political discord, cultural discord, economic discord. So we have all those big things, and then you have the things in your own life, your work, your health, your relationships. So we all have these discords. He said, rather than look at them as these big problems that you have to figure out and resolve, he said, look at it as a dance. You're doing a dance. They're your dance partner. We still have to resolve the problems. We can't just... Witnessing isn't enough. Witnessing is one aspect of it, but the other one is participating in the resolution. But that can get, if you're only focused on the resolution and you don't have the witness, you get burned out. And that's why he's saying to be free of the burnout is know that you're free of this challenge already. You're already in touch with that part that's already free. It doesn't have a problem. Your witness has no problems at all. It is not concerned with climate change. It is not concerned with the political divisiveness. It is free. It's unbelievable, isn't it? To have a presence that is even freaked out by climate change or nuclear war, COVID. It's completely not fear. It's completely fearless. It knows that it knows that it knows because it is. It is already. Nothing in this human world could ever change it. And to bring that paradox into everything that changes, into a world that's constantly changing and that we have to participate in, that we have to do both. We participate and we know the freedom. It's the dance. It's the paradoxical dance. Michael Caine talked about it. He was talking about when he was first acting, they were working out a scene. This is not in front of an audience, but they were working out a scene, and he was off stage, and the person who was on stage had a role, and he was supposed to get mad. And at one point, he got so mad, he threw a chair down. And then Michael Caine's job, he had to come in. And he opened the door, and the chair's in front of the door. So he stopped. He goes, well, this isn't going to work. The chair's in front of the door. And the director said, no, you can't do that. In a play, that might happen. You can't stop the play. You have to take whatever difficulty shows up, even ones you don't plan, because often we're not planning, and use them. Use every difficulty. So he said, if there's a chair in front of you and it's a comedy, fall over it and make it funny. If it's a drama that you're doing, like know the essence of the world you're in, and then like get mad at the chair, like use it. And he said that, Michael Caine said, that he ended up using this in his life, throughout his life. He said, ask my kids, anytime there's a difficulty, how can we use this? How can we use this? That's the paradox. Because he also said, after that, which I appreciate, he goes, also, we try to avoid as many challenges as we can. We're not trying to create difficulties. We want to prevent difficulties, but these things happen. And so when they do happen, meaning he doesn't have, like, oh, it's no big deal having difficulties. It's like, no. One side of the paradox is, this sucks. It's bad to have difficulties. I don't want difficulties. I don't like them when I have it. And the other side is, okay, how can I use it? How can I use it to make my life better? This is a constant, wonderful paradox that we're in our life. So just think in your life, things that you can hold this paradoxical perspective. And then if the problems of this planet aren't big enough, I think we're moving into a new age, a new way, an expanded state. And I didn't even understand it really 20 years ago. So we have egos. So you look at human development. There's ego development, and then we grow and we become ethnocentric about our family, and then we become world-centric. So we have a lot of people who are world-centric now, where we know that there's multiple religions, and we are accepting of all these different things on the planet. And then I remember him saying, but we're not cosmic-centered yet. And I'm like, what the heck is cosmic-centered? How would that even look? Like, I couldn't even fathom it, but it's happening in our world now. It's literally happening. I was talking to my nephew, who is an atheist, and I'm used to atheists. I have a family full of them. So I'm all ready to get, this is at my mom's after the memorial, and we're getting into discussion, and I'm ready for my family for this talk about atheism. Because I've been, I'm always thinking about it. And then he comes at me. Now this guy's an unusual guy. He lives in an apartment. He found an apartment where he doesn't have to have a car, so he made sure he could walk to the grocery store, he could walk to the library, and he could walk to his job. He has a retail job that just pays for the rent and the bills. So he has to do the minimum amount of work, and he works. He's creating, he's a science fiction, I think he calls it science fiction. He's a whole series of graphic novels, and he's just finished the first one. He's finished the story. Now he's an incredible artist, so now he's doing all the artwork. And when I'm talking to him, I knew he was an atheist, and we start talking, and I'm ready for what I'm going to say, because I'm used to materialism and evolution. He was talking physics beyond what I can, exploding my mind, bending, and I'm trying, okay, now what's the principle here? I'm in my little tiny mind, and it is so clear that he is in a whole nother universe of which I am not I'm unfamiliar with. I didn't know how, it was mind bending. When we talk about our laws here, like the law of gravity, that's a law for this earth. It's not a permanent law. It's just how this physics. He's in other universes, how physics works, and it's time bending, and I'm trying to keep up with him. Next time I talk to him, I'm going into meditation first. It's the only way I can match him. But to me, this is where we're going. To him, this is real. That's what's real. He's living and I couldn't meet him, so I know I'm having to expand my reality. I was just listening to Reverend Michael Beckwith. For those of you who don't know, he's a minister down in Los Angeles. From what I understand, 10,000 viewers of his services every Sunday, so it's like us, just like us, but 10,000 people. But I was listening to him on an interview, or just a little clip, those little short clips that show up on your whatever, show up wherever, and he was saying, so I don't know the context, but the short clip was, oh yeah, I know there's aliens. Yeah, I have a friend, her partner is from another planet. And I'm listening to him, I'm like, what? What is he talking about? And then I was thinking, then I was at Agape, there were a couple people who said they knew they were with aliens, or they knew they were from another planet. And I'm thinking, this is another universe. And it makes me a little uncomfortable, because I'm used to my little world. I'm not used to the world. But this is cosmic. I'm like, this is cosmic-centered. This is going in a whole, see, we have it just keeps growing. and expanding. But the paradox is we also have to be very grounded. We can't just be out there floating around. So I love the way, for me, Ken Wilber, his gift is articulating things that we already know, but he says it so clearly. And he says, so you have the pre-rational, and this is when we go, oh, there's aliens, or oh, if I walk around the circle 3 times and jump up and down, this will happen, right? Right? Or crystals heal when there's, we're not sure if science proves that or not, but people believe that, this, if I put this next to my heart, all these things, and you just go, is that true? So there's what he calls it is nonlinear. It's not rational. It's pre-rational. And then we have the rational that came along, and that's when Ernest Holmes came along. And Ernest Holmes said, we have to take the superstition out of things and really look at things with a rational mind, be able to understand these, why is this true, if it's true and if it's not true, and apply these principles. So it's a highly rational way of understanding spiritual principles. Thank you, God, for that. But then the next stage after that is what he calls trans-rational, and that is also nonlinear. It also can talk about aliens, perhaps, or mind-bending beyond reality, but it includes rational thought. He said that's the difference. You can have, if you have just rational thought without the transcendent, then it's almost dead. It's like rational thought, but it doesn't have any life to it. Or you have a lot of like, woo, that's the stereotype of the flaky new age, or like, oh, this is so great, but it's not grounded in rational thinking. We need both. We need to be grounded in rational thinking and be able to transcend it. I'm just showing that this is how our new cosmic center being needs to be, because we need to be able to start going out there, because the next generation's going out there, but at the same time stay grounded in rational principles and understanding, which is why this teaching to me is so fabulous. Paradox is everywhere. It's everywhere, it's always expanding us. So the question to ask ourselves is, where is my wall? Because that's where my deepest growth will come. Paradox comes when we face our wall. Paradox, again, remember, if it's not paradoxical, it's not true. And our wall tells us where the paradox is. Our wall says there's separation. Any place where we've walked into separation that we can't get past, we have a wall. And that wall becomes a place of paradox. Oh, it's all one, but I have this wall. And everyone's wall is different. Some people have a lot of walls, some have a little walls. I didn't even know this. This is something I just learned, in the last few days. The way Zen came about was the originator of Zen actually sat in front of a wall until the wall ultimately became no wall. But obviously sat in front of it a long time, because all Zen, if you go to an actual Zen center, you face the wall. And I never really thought about the wall. I don't face a wall. I didn't take that part of it seriously. And I'm like, oh, they intentionally were facing a wall. So what are the walls in our life that just stop us? No matter how much we do, we just can't seem to get past it. And sometimes it's a wall inside of us. Sometimes it's something that we can't control. Well, actually, almost a lot of times it is something we can't control. And I become really interested in this without even knowing that I was interested in it, because I just, for some reason, just bought a whole slew of new books. I don't know what happened, like this past week and a half. I'm like, oh, I'll get that one. Oh, I'll get that one. Oh, I'll get that one. I take a long time to read books. And I started looking at them all, and they all had some, and then I'm listening to different people. Andrea Gibson, who's on We Can Do Hard Things. She was just named Poet Laureate in Colorado. Just like every book that I was reading and person I was hearing had severe illnesses that was their wall, a diagnosis of some kind, and that became a wall for them. So one of the books that I'm reading, she's Belgium, so I wrote her name down. It's Biek van der Kalve, I don't know, something like that. I never heard of her again. This is a book that is actually a guy who's a contemplative posted. I'm like, oh, I'm getting that book. At age 19, she got a diagnosis of ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. And they told her that she had from 2 to 5 years to live. So she was totally fine, living her life in college, studying, gets this diagnosis, and her life changes immediately because it moves pretty quickly. She lost she couldn't move her arms. She became paralyzed from the waist up. So not being able to move her arms, so she couldn't read, everything had to, suddenly, everybody has to help her. She can't, and she's got 2 to 5 years to live. That is a wall, a serious wall. She can't, they say there's no treatment for it and there's no cure for it, or vice versa, no cure and no treatment. It just steadily eats away at your muscles and you die. Horrible, horrible diagnosis. Everything in our world fell apart. If you don't feel death, that'll do it for you. That was her wall. And like I said, I've just suddenly been reading all these books where people have just as severe walls. What do we do with our walls? Do you have any walls in your life? A wall at work? They just keep coming up against this wall at work. Do you have a wall in your relationships? Do you have a wall in your own, something you're going in your life, your finances, in how you respond, whatever? What are your walls? Do you have one major wall that you just, no matter how much work you do, you hit it and you just, no matter what you do, it's not going to move? Physical health. And so she became deeply sad. She didn't go, oh, this is a challenge. How can I make it work for me? No, she's like, this is like death. Well, it's not like death. I'm going to die. It stopped her. It stopped her, and she deals with the pain. But something happened to her, and I read something exact same. I've actually heard it 3 times this week. That in the dying, a new life is discovered, an unreasonable joy that she couldn't explain. She said, I don't know, a friend to ask me to go to a Zen weekend, or it was a Trappist. She went to a Trappist monastery. I'm just starting the book. And she said, we're doing this. It just got, he asked me not to talk, so it was 3 days of silence in the midst, and she said, on the other side of it, everything was exactly the same. I had the same diagnosis, but I had this joy. I couldn't stop laughing. I have found something inside of me that transcended the wall, that was more real than the wall was. And so she ended up, I haven't read further, but I just read the summary, and apparently she went to an abbey of Benedictine and did a lot of, and participated in their stillness. She ultimately, they don't know why, but it went into remission, and she lived 27 more years from a diagnosis of having to live at the most 5 years. She lived 27 more years and just went so deep spiritually that she became, in fact, I was reading one review and said she's like one of our greatest mystics, but nobody knows or has heard of her, but it's because of the depth from which she became free in the midst of this seeming prison. Our walls that seem like a prison, that's why I years ago I was talking about being in prison a lot, because I found that often people, when we're imprisoned, you're forced to break free in another way because your freedom is taken away. Ramana Maharshi said that about horses. Someone got mad because they had put a horse in a barn and were keeping it from running wild. They said, well, no, that horse is actually going to break free now because it's, before we're just running around, but now it's contained, so it has to go in rather than out. Often the wall contains us. The wall stops us from all this out there and takes us so far deep, because that's the only place we have to go. We have no other place to go. Her great inspiration at the beginning of her journey, and I've talked about her, is Eddie Hillsman. I don't know if any of you, do you remember me talking about Eddie at all? Well, maybe if I freshen your mind. So she wrote, it's called The Interrupted Life of Eddie Hillsman, and she was taken to a Nazi concentration camp and ultimately was killed. But she was doing so much inner work. She was working with a Jungian therapist before this happened. So she was so already doing her inner work and connecting with this love that was so profound that she actually had an easy way to escape. She didn't have to go to the concentration camp. But her love said, no, I'm going to walk with my people and through this experience. And she did. And she talks about it while she's in the Auschwitz, how she stood in love and how she walked with the people and was a constant service because she had connected with something so deep and profound in her that this unrelenting wall of which she could not, as the people, and once you're in Auschwitz, you can't escape. You can't escape, and yet you can find your freedom. And so as Beek, who's just got her ALS diagnosis, found inspiration for someone else who found freedom in the wall. That's our journey. This is this paradoxical journey. It's taking us to deeper and deeper levels, beyond which we can't just get there with 3 prayers and we're healed. It's going to pull us into the depths, and we are here to walk with each other. We are here to support and inspire each other. It's hard to be inspired by someone who doesn't know what it means to even sit in front of a wall, to be so like, this wall is killing me, it's imprisoning me. And if someone goes, oh, that wall doesn't exist, why are you having trouble with wall? Because we have different walls. So someone else's wall may not be my wall. But if I'm present with any wall in my life, I know exactly what that feels like. And so we're present with each other. And that doesn't mean we pray, we meditate, we just go deeper and deeper together. And just as Eddie Hillsman, when she wrote those journals, she had no idea she would be inspiring someone decades later who had a completely different world experience, and yet she came up her wall and turned to Eddie for her. Eddie's what gave her hope. She said, when I read this, I thought, oh, even in the midst of being totally imprisoned by this disease, I can find freedom, I can find love. That's what we're here for. Because nothing can imprison us. There is actually no wall. What the mystics keep teaching us is you come up against the wall, the deeper you go, the more the wall dissolves. But not through our human effort, not through trying to break it down with an axe, not through trying to will it away, but by going deeper and deeper into absolute truth. So as you're going through your life, look at where are your walls or a wall that you just can't get past. You're free in all these other areas, but you have this wall that just you hit up against. First of all, you have to own it. You have to see it. I mean, it's easy. I mean, that's part of this freedom. When you have freedom, you can just ignore it and just put all your attention over here. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want total freedom, if we want to live in the truth, we have to one day face this wall. And sometimes life will force us to face it. I mean, even look at it collectively. We have the wall of climate change. It seems utterly impossible. When you hear about it, it's like we are doomed to destruction. The cultural, political divisiveness, it's a wall. We have collective walls, and we can just keep faith. We can keep hoping for the best. We can try to nail that other side of that wall and say, if I just pound you down with my hammer, you'll go away. But it's not going to go away if we pound with our hammer. Doesn't mean we don't work with it, but there's a place we have to go deeper. Everything that's happening in our life, individually and collectively, we need to use it. That's the paradox. We may not want it. I know I don't like it. I don't like what's happening in our world. I don't like the walls in my life. I would rather be utterly free all the time, not just spiritually, but in my human life. And not just for me. I like the whole planet to be free. I like the whole planet to have no walls and us to live in harmony and peace. Kumbaya. But we have these walls. How are we going to be with them? Hammer away at them or start really deepening in our spiritual practice? If it's not paradoxical, it's not true. The wall hurts. The wall hurts. We can't pretend it doesn't hurt. It's ugly. It's deathly. It feels like death. And yet, there's something beyond it. And it's calling us to know who and what we really are and to know who and what everyone on this planet is. Because we don't break free unless everybody breaks free from the walls. And so we're committed to breaking down our walls through consciousness, through this elevated consciousness of paradoxical truth, and carrying everybody who we know with us in that place of total freedom. Yeah? The beauty of paradox. So please, this week, it's just so fun. Just start looking at your life where you have paradoxes, two totally seeming opposite things. And is there a way you can hold both of them and be present to both of them and see as you go deeper and deeper into the silence, and find something new reveal itself that would never maybe reveal itself in our head, but when we get quieter and quieter and quieter, because that's the whole point of Zen and paradox. So when you hear someone ask Shinro Suzuki, so really Shinro, does a tree make a noise when it falls in the forest? And he said, it doesn't matter. And what he meant was, in the human mind, that's just like you're trying to intellectually figure out something and you might have some clever response. It does not matter. The whole purpose of cones, which is a Zen riddle that makes no sense in the human mind, is you can't get there with your rational mind. Paradox says it's not just the rational mind. We have to access the transrational. We have to access the transrational. That includes the rational, but we have to access it to dissolve the wall in front of us. So let's go into prayer and move into that place that is both rational and transrational, that goes beyond our human thoughts. So sometimes I pray a long time. Forget the words. The words make rational sense, but I'm not here just to be rational. We're here to access a different part of yourself. So as I go into prayer, actually, I want you to think about your heart's intention today. Because your heart's intention is what's the most important thing happening in this service. Your intention of why you are here or online or listening to, that's the most important thing that's on right now, because you claimed for yourself why you're here. And so as I'm praying, try to tap into your heart's intention, and maybe you'll have an insight, a breakthrough that has nothing to do with the words that are being spoken. It includes the words that are being spoken, but it goes beyond that. So let's go beyond the words, into your heart, listen to your heart's intention, and let Spirit reveal something that you never thought you'd hear or see or feel. Allow something new to come forth as we pray together. Because this is about new life. And here and now we know that this power and this presence is so beyond anything we could ever humanly conceive or talk about. It is that which is beyond words. And yet it is right here where we are. It is witnessing itself as each of us individually, each of us collectively in this community online. It is that witness that is witnessing this entire planet. Everything that's happening in this planet, there is this divine, infinite, oceanic love that encompasses this entire planet. And this divine witnessing, this witnessing that has infinite compassion, has no judgment, just witnesses in love. And so we access that here and now. I know that even as witnessing this planet, it is witnessing the cosmos. It is witnessing multi-dimensions of time and space beyond anything we could ever again humanly conceive or conceive of. And yet it's there. It's all of it. It is all of it. And so we just let go. Let's just take a moment and let go into this beyond the beyond. There is the sweetness. There is the sweetness, the joy, this bubbly, ever-present bliss, this love that is delighted, this peace that is alive and dynamic, this gentleness that is so powerful, this childlike innocence that is infinitely wise. This beautiful light that radiates as darkness, and this darkness that radiates as light. This beautiful, tender, minuscule, tiny, microscopic presence that is infinite in nature. We let go, and we embrace it all as the I am that I am. The I am that I am. That is everything, here and now. And that this I am is at the center of our being, that each and every one of us radiates and pulsates as this I amness. the power, the infinite waves of light and of truth and of freedom and of joy and of health and of creativity and delight and abundance and of beauty and of harmony. All of that is pulsating and radiating as every atom and cell of our beingness. It is already. Nothing needs to be changed, fixed, or made happen. It already exists. The power and the presence of this I amness is our emotional life, is our mental life. It is our relationships, all relationships, relationships with this side of the veil and the other side of the veil. It is our work life. It is our family life. It is our community life. It is our spiritual life. It is on every level and dimension of our being. I am that I am. We are free, we are free, we are free, we are free now. We don't have to wait. Nothing needs to change. It is now. This is who we ultimately really are and always shall be. The ever-present I am that I am, pure, unlimited, infinite love, infinite giggles, infinite laughter, infinite joy. In every single way, I am alive, awake, and vital. This is who I am. We anchor in this I amness, and from this I amness, we feel the pain of the world. We feel the fear that is happening everywhere with the big global challenges that seem insurmountable. Climate change, adversity, different points of view at war and ready to kill one another, battle one another, mentally, emotionally, with laws, with restrictions. There's just a lot happening in this world, but so much of it is fueled by fear. And so we have infinite compassion for all the fear, the hunger, the loneliness, the not enoughness that fuels so much of the pain and the suffering. And the climate change, just for being our naturally human, curious self, we've also created a world that is unhealthy and unsafe in many ways. And we just hold all of that in the I am that I am. Remember, we are the I am that I am. As we name every problem, global problem, the I am that I am is in the midst of it and is greater than all of it. I am that I am. Free, unlimited, whole, unchanging, stable, loving, kind, infinitely generous, infinitely beautiful, infinitely loving. And in the midst of all of this, the struggles and the challenges, not only of the global world, but of each of our own personal lives, any places that we are struggling or the people that we love are struggling, because the people that we love are so much a part of who we are. We hold the I am in the midst of this. We hold the I am and we feel the walls in our own life. We feel that walls, and the only answer is silence, is to go into the depth that is beyond human words, beyond human concept. So we just give thanks, and we go for a minute into stillness, into the silence. And here is the truth. It is done, and so it is. Amen and amen.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all that I say.